Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to do something kind of cool. We're going to take a deep dive into the box office results for just one single weekend in December. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a list of movies and numbers, right?
At first glance, yeah, it totally looks like a spreadsheet. It's this dense wall of titles, dollar signs, and percentages. It tells you who's number one, sure, but it doesn't really tell you the story.
Because, and this is the cool part, if you know where to look, a chart like this is absolutely packed with incredible stories. We're talking tales of massive hits, surprising underdogs, and even old ghosts returning to the big screen. So let's go find them.
All right, so let's start our investigation at the most obvious place on the chart, the spot where all the headlines get made, the battle for the very top. Every single weekend, you've got these big-budget sequels and huge franchise films all competing for that coveted #1 spot. And, as you're about to see, this weekend is definitely no exception.
So sitting at the top of the chart is Disney's Zootopia 2, pulling in a massive $25.8 million in its third week. Right behind it, you've got the horror sequel Five Nights at Freddy's 2 with a really strong $19.3 million, and the musical phenomenon Wicked is still hanging on with $8.5 million in its fourth week. I mean, these are the giants, the movies that are on thousands of screens, drawing in huge crowds. But now, if we look back at those percentages, we see two completely different stories playing out. See, Zootopia 2 had what we call a really strong hold. It only dropped about 40% from last week. That shows it has serious staying power. On the other hand, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 had a much steeper drop, almost 70%. But here's the thing. For a horror movie that gets all its diehard fans out on opening weekend, that huge drop is actually pretty normal, and even a sign of success.
You know, the top of the chart is often pretty predictable. The real drama, the most surprising stories, well, those are usually hiding a little further down the list.
And this brings us to a super important point. If you want to find the real surprises, you have to look past the giant dollar amounts. Sometimes, the most exciting number on the entire chart is that little week-over-week percentage change.
And wow, this just perfectly illustrates that point. Check out these huge jumps. Durandar leaped up over 76% from last weekend, which is great, but look at one battle after another. It just exploded with a nearly 1,400% increase. A jump like that almost always means one thing. The film expanded from just a few theaters into a much wider release and found a massive new audience.
Now here's another awesome way to measure success, the per-theater average. Basically, how much did a movie make in each individual movie theater? Durandar made over $9,000 per theater. That's actually higher than Zootopia 2. And then look at Resurrection. Okay, it only made about $62,000 total, but it was only playing in 3 theaters. That's an average of over $20,000 per screen. That is an absolutely insane number that shows this intense, concentrated demand for that movie.
But you know, it's not just new movies that are making money. When you dig deeper into the chart, you find out it's also kind of haunted by the ghosts of cinema past.
Yep, we're talking about re-releases. These are older films that get brought back to theaters, and as you can see, especially around the holidays, that can become major players.
And this weekend is a perfect example. We've got holiday classics like How the Grinch Stole Christmas pulling in almost $2 million. You've got horror classics like The Shining and Silent Night, Deadly Night, and then we have Killer Raccoons 2, Dark Christmas in the Dark. Yes, that is a real movie on this chart, and it just proves that nostalgia really does come in all shapes and sizes.
So, the final story that's been hiding in all this data isn't about opening big or coming back for an encore. No, this one is all about endurance.
These are the marathon runners of the box office. They might not be making the big headlines, but they have a kind of staying power that is just truly remarkable. Let's just take a look at the weeks column for a second. One battle after another has been in theaters for 12 weeks. Demon Slayer for 14. Cat Video Fest 2025 has been delighting audiences for 20 weeks straight. Familiar Touch has held on for half a year. But there is one film here that stands completely alone in its incredible longevity.
99 weeks. The indie black and white comedy Hundreds of Beavers has been in theaters for almost 2 years. That is a testament to a super dedicated fan base and a release strategy that has just kept this film slowly but surely earning money week after week after week. That is a truly stunning achievement.
So after digging through all this data, what have we actually learned? What does this one single weekend tell us about the state of moviegoing right now?
Well, it looks like three key trends really emerge. First, the big sequels still rule the box office. No surprise there. Second, nostalgia is a really powerful and profitable force, especially around the holidays. And third, and this might be the most important, niche is powerful. Whether it's through a massive per-theater average or a marathon 99-week run, small, targeted films can find absolutely incredible success.
It really shows us that a box office chart is so much more than just a list of numbers. It's like this living, breathing snapshot of our collective taste, what we're all choosing to watch together, what stories from the past we want to revisit, and which new, surprising voices are managing to break through all the noise.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? If we can find all of these amazing narratives in just one weekend of data, imagine what an epic story an entire year of moviegoing tells us about who we are. It's this constant, fascinating conversation about what captures our collective imagination. Thanks so much for joining